Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well folks, it's getting closer and closer to election season, and we got another little update here. And the closer we get to the peak here, the more polling analysis and election analysis we're going to be doing. Now look, I'm an open-minded, honest guy, and if I see evidence that proves a narrative, then I'll change my mind. Now a topic we've been talking a whole lot about recently is that somehow the Democrats stand a chance. Well, I keep seeing evidence to the contrary. In fact, the evidence is so staggering, so massive, it's getting to a point where it's undeniable. I mean, I think at this point, the Democrats are going to need a serious miracle, something out of this world. But considering their relationship with religion, probably not going to happen. And that's exactly it, folks. The Democrat turnaround, probably not going to happen. Political trends are something we've been analyzing for a long time, and like I always say when it comes to these political trends, they take a long time to materialize. But it seems as though the 2020s is the era of breaking historical trends and historical precedent. We are seeing a massive political shift that's happening with haste, fast, the last 12 months. Data just released suggests that in the last 12 months, in the last year, more than 1 million American citizens have switched to the Republican Party. Let's go back to that absolutely horrible Geraldo Rivera take on Twitter, where Geraldo said after Roe v. Wade was overturned that the Supreme Court of the United States has breathed life into the Democratic Party with this incendiary issue. Now watch Republicans lose the suburbs is what he says. Political expert Geraldo Rivera, otherwise known as the biggest clown on Fox News since Juan William Lev. Well, what if I told you that the 1 million Americans that over the last 12 months have switched to the Republican Party, well, a good chunk, if not the majority of them, are suburban voters. Folks, the Democrat worst nightmare is multifaceted, folks. It's not just black voters, it's not just Hispanic voters, it's middle-class swing voters and suburban moms. That right there, folks, is probably the worst news Democrat election offices could ever receive. Let me update you guys on what's going on here. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, friends, so take a look at this piece right over here from the Daily Wire. More than 1 million voters have switched to the Republican Party in the last year, data shows. The times are a-changin', while the mainstream media went wall to wall throughout the weekend with breathless coverage over the Supreme Court's ruling on Friday overturning Roe v. Wade. A new report says that more than 1 million Americans have switched to the Republican Party in the last 12 months. A political shift is beginning to take hold across the U.S. as tens of thousands of suburban swing voters who helped fuel the Democratic Party's gains in recent years are becoming Republicans, the Associated Press reported. More than 1 million voters across 43 states have switched to the Republican Party over the last year, according to voter registration data analyzed by the Associated Press. The previously unreported number reflects a phenomenon that is playing out in virtually every region of the country, Democratic and Republican states along with cities and small towns. In the period since President Joe Biden replaced former President Donald Trump, the AP said that the explosion of Republicans in key battleground states could play a factor in the 2022 midterms and the 2024 presidential election. Now that's the understatement of the year. Might I remind you that Joe Biden's electoral victory in 2020 was by a mere 40,000 votes across 3 key swing states, winning by barely 10,000 votes in Wisconsin, a little bit above 10,000 in Georgia, and I think 10 or 20,000 in the state of Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. Just barely squeaking by. And now you mean to tell me that based on voter registration data and patterns, just in the last 12 months, not even since 2020, when we were seeing Democrat and Joe Biden voter regret as people cast their early ballots, and then all of a sudden the Hunter Biden laptop and corruption scandal started to explode. But not since then, but just in the last 12 months, over 1 million people have switched to the Republican Party. The Associated Press says that this could play a factor in 2022. No, it is going to play a factor. In fact, it might be the only factor leading to what seems to be the inevitable outcome, which is, of course, the inevitable collapse of the Democrat establishment and Democrat Party. 1 million people have made the switch, and they're just saying that that's 1 million people switching to the Republican Party. Who knows if that includes first-time voters and people just registering as Republicans for the first time. And we know that it doesn't include states that don't even register voters in the first place. Places like Texas don't even have voter registration data. So this really isn't even the full picture. We're talking about 1 million more Republicans than the last election baseline. And of course, just follow the logic. That means hundreds of thousands less Democrats Democrats heading into the next election as people are switching over, and then add on top of that voter enthusiasm that Democrats are just not enthused to vote and Republicans are extremely enthused to BTFO Joe Biden and these corrupt Democrats, well, it's a recipe for disaster. It means you're probably not going to be seeing too much of Nancy Pelosi in the near future, thank God. The article continues, but nowhere is the shift more pronounced and dangerous for Democrats than in the suburbs, where well-educated swing voters who turned against Trump's Republican Party in recent years appear to be swinging back. It's almost like the 2016 factor is starting to shift back. Over the last year, far more people are switching to the GOP across suburban counties from Denver to Atlanta to Pittsburgh and Cleveland, the AP wrote. And two cities immediately get my attention, Atlanta and Pittsburgh. If swing voters in Pennsylvania and Georgia shift, in a general election sense, if I'm not mistaken, Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes, the state of Georgia has 16, that's already 36 electoral votes, moving away from the Democrat Party. Add Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, possibly Michigan, and even Virginia to the list, you might be starting to see the picture that I'm painting here. Words I've been saying for a very long time now, the Democrat worst nightmare. The article continues, Republicans also gained ground in counties around medium-sized cities such as Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Raleigh, North Carolina, Augusta, Georgia, and Des Moines, Iowa. While Democrats now have the abortion issue heading into the November election, even liberal CNN says things look grim for the party in the midterms. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton on Monday predicted a 2022 midterm election landslide for Republicans in the House of Representatives. The November elections are months away, but Enton's findings are pointing in the wrong direction for Democrats who hold a 12-seat House majority. Enton said Republicans are in their best position in more than 80 years. My estimate for the 2023 House makeup, if the elections were held today, which again, it isn't, would be Republicans 236 to 241 seats, Democrats 194 to 199. That seems like a relatively accurate prediction, but considering some of the factors here, it might actually even be worse for the Democrats. What were previously safe Democrat seats aren't even considered toss-ups, might flip, just like we saw with Mayra Flores in Texas 34. And if you look at Rasmussen reports and Trafalgar data, these are the most recent numbers released from June 20th to 23rd, so this is before the SCOTUS decision. We'll have to, of course, come back and analyze how this changes after. But they're showing Republicans with essentially a plus 9.5% lead, basically already hitting that 50% mark. That's doomsday, folks. That spells a history-making Republican landslide. And factor in the fact that Joe Biden continues to become even more of a train wreck in terms of his numbers. His Real Clear average approval rating just dipped below 39%. He is now a 38% approval president, and his net approval is almost 10 points lower than Donald Trump's was at this point in office. Well, with those numbers, folks, with a failing and flailing president, a failing and flailing Senate and House that has accomplished nothing, Democrat voter sentiment in the garbage, economic conditions, crime, immigration. I mean, I personally in my lifetime, even though I'm quite young, I've never seen anything like this. All of these factors might create the perfect storm for, I'll say it again, the Democrat worst nightmare and a historic victory for Republicans like hasn't been seen in 80 or more years. That's what I got for you guys though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.